Good day, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to our first webinar in our industry series, Achieve a Critically Integrated Supply Chain with Oracle Cloud. Today, we're going to look at how Oracle's advanced cloud technology is enabling transformation for the life science and med device organizations. We're glad you can join us. My name is Christina Steiner, and I'm the Marketing Director at Avada, and I will be moderating today's presentation. So now I'd like to introduce our thought-inspiring presenters, some of the brightest and best. Casey Quillen, VP of Sales, Sanjay Agrawal, VP of Operations, Ed Hayek, Solutions Architect, and we're happy to have Seshan Misra. He's from Calypso, and he's an Oracle Solutions Lead. Here's a quick look at our agenda. We'll do a short intro about Avada, look at some critical supply chain challenges for the med device, and look at the impact of Oracle's advanced cloud features, and then we'll end with a few case studies. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Casey.
Thanks, Christina. Hi, everyone. Thanks for giving us the time today. I'm going to take just a few minutes over the next couple slides to give a snapshot of who Avada is. If we look at the right-hand side, so Avada's been involved with Oracle for over 20 years. Been interacting with strategy and development for all of those years, focused on supply chain and ERP. If we look at the center of this cog, I think that, or the wheel, most of these cogs are involved to some degree in most all of our engagements, but sometimes more and less of others, depending on the engagement. I think really what sets Avada apart is the ability to take the enterprise-wide look at a company when doing an implementation, a project, and not just focused on IT of implementation of the software, but the key supporting processes that are dependent on that implementation being successful. Concentrating also on business best practices and focused on industry. And today we're talking about med device. We also, life sciences, retail, CPG, manufacturing are other places that we do focus. But again, we're going to focus on med device today. So a little extra of what Avada brings to the table today. If we start on the left-hand side, we bring a many years proven tool of eLink to integrate cloud to legacy, whether that's a migration or a pure integration. And we've dealt with most all core ERP systems of that integration, as well as other key applications and modules that will tie to the cloud. If we look down below, some of the accelerators that we bring. So looking at a project that is brought in on time, on budget, but also successful after the fact. And we bring that real-world experience to the table. So some of the accelerators bringing Demantra into the cloud or ASCP into the cloud, implementing trade planning, et cetera. On the right-hand side are more PaaS solutions that Avada has developed for support business processes and different industry solutions, and also just make the user experience better. PAR inventory replenishment is key to the industry that we're talking about today, but also other things that extend the functionality of the Oracle applications. That's credit card, scheduling board, et cetera. And at the bottom, some of the latest terms that we keep hearing and keep getting brought into the Oracle modules, and we concentrate there, some of the exciting things of AI and internet learning, et cetera. So a snapshot of what is involved in most of our projects. And it starts with a cloud readiness assessment. Many times that is at very low cost or no cost to the customer for us to get in and do some discovery and talk about a roadmap of what's the goals and how do we reach it. And then going into the implementation strategy, pulling in some of the methodologies that I talked about earlier, taking that holistic approach, not just IT, but working with the business and all of the people that would be involved and impacted. And ultimately into the express solutions and integrations. I talked about some of the pre-built adapters earlier that just help with accelerating the solutions. Again, on time, on budget, and successful implementation. And cloud managed services still plays a key part. Whatever role the customer would like us to take after the implementation, we're able to support that. However large or however small, we end up being connected mostly at some level throughout Go Live and beyond. Well, good. Now, I'm excited to announce one of our most recent partnerships, Avada and Calypso working close together, where Avada has that core supply chain and ERP, EPM focus. Calypso brings many years of experience in data management and product lifecycle management, and we'll get to hear from some of their team later on in the presentation.
All right, we're going to get into the meat of it, critical challenges for the medical device supply chains. I'm going to go ahead and pass this off to Ed.
Well, let's talk about some difficulties before we cut into the proposed solutions here. So, whereas many devices or many industries are rapidly changing in this increasingly globalized marketplace, medical device industry has some a little more acute challenges with respect to how the marketplace is handling the way the world is changing. And really, some key disruptors really relate to both the rapid advancement of technologies, new devices, new ways of monitoring, new proactive ways of monitoring of folks' health, people's effectively acceptance, right, of wearable technology or real-time updates on how their health is doing, and also the rapid changes in both regulatory country-specific changes, as well as the way that really the whole value chain with the medical industry is constantly changing. And really, what this comes down to is medical device companies really are having to rapidly either bring new devices to market and or enhancements to their bread and butter or existing devices in order to stay kind of relevant and at the forefront really of in the medical industry. With respect to growth in digital health, right? Everybody's smartphones and or other wearable devices basically really promote kind of everyday monitoring and monitoring in the form of compliance with health goals. There are not just wearable devices, but also, I'd say, devices that may sit on the desktop. A lot of them include now cellular technology or mobile wireless technology to automatically connect back into doctors' offices and give reports back around usage of the device and how the device and or person using the device is performing from day to day. With the regulatory and billing area, really considerations on information security, right? And in the States, we've got the HIPAA regulations around the world. Privacy of healthcare data is very much held dear, and regulatory compliance both in keeping data secret where it used to be kept, and also regulatory compliance in the form of materials of construction and or other materials of usage is something that is, again, a constantly changing environment that each medical device company needs to be acutely aware of. So what all this means really within the healthcare or medical device industry specifically is you need to be a very nimble organization with a nimble tool set really to stay ahead of all these changes. So the next few slides, we're going to kind of go over a little bit deeper into some of these risks. And really I'll focus in on these three key areas, right? The idea of the costs, right, associated and cost to the companies and cost to the industry around rapidly changing digital health technologies, as well as the idea of risk sharing as a change from what I'll call sort of fixed price billing, moving into a more of a value add assessment with respect to usage of devices. And the third one, the regulatory mandates, right, are something that takes deep considerations within the entire supply chain. So in dealing with digital health and deep diving into that, I'll point out, I'll be throwing out facts and figures here throughout the talk. And first one I'll throw at you is $29 billion, which is really where this global market for wearable medical devices is expected to be here just in a couple of short years, really. This is a market that is going to continue to have very large growth rate, and it's really fueled by a philosophy, right, of kind of putting a little bit of the healthcare power to the people, meaning having your heart rate monitor and or blood sugar level monitoring right within your smartphone or watch or other wearable device, something that folks are embracing more and more. And really the incentives that insurers are beginning to provide different folks for sharing data or sharing habits in order to promote really more preventive care activities, as more of the health insurers particularly are embracing the idea that a penny of investment in preventive care can be worth a dollar or a dollar worth of corrective care later on. And so as these things continue to develop, right, the idea is to breed efficiency, right, in selecting for medical device companies to select and develop those new or enhanced products. And with this emerging technology, really, there's the next number I'll throw out to you is the 80% number, and that's where there's a large opportunity in what's been dubbed the Internet of Things, and this is promoting the idea of not just preventive maintenance activity of every CPAP machines every month replace filters, every 6 months replace your mask. The idea of potentially getting telemetry feedback from the machine regarding differences in measurements that it's taking could point more to just-in-time type maintenance intervals for devices, particularly things like mobility devices, those types of things. So moving off of a regular maintenance or maintenance schedule into more of a just-in-time maintenance area is something that's highly desired. Machine intelligence. This is another area where the picking patterns out of the volumes and volumes of data available, not just from a standpoint of looking at data of a population, but potentially looking at performance data or diagnostic data from an individual. The idea to have automatic algorithms programmed to look for changes in patterns, looking for statistical differences in what might be going on, and again, possibly providing early warning on things that might be going a little worse, and also maybe on the positive side, things that might be going better, and to find out why those changes are happening. The blockchain technology, this is something where you might have heard it probably in cryptocurrency popularity lately, but the idea behind blockchain is really something that provides ideal traceability with respect to components or lots or batches, and take a look at the genealogy over time of how either a chip makes it into a device or a particular material makes it into a remedy. And then autonomous databases. With all this new technology and information gathering, the idea behind having databases that are intelligent and able to maintain and repair themselves is something that again adds efficiency within these systems, right, of both the devices as well as the business systems that are being implemented to help manage them. The next number, 74%, and that's the reimbursement percent of reimbursements that are expected to be more value-based rather than just fee-for-service or single price type of reimbursements, and that's supposed to be in place by the end of this year. So really, three out of four billings moving toward this value-based approach, and with risk sharing. Well, the whole thing is designed, right, to reduce the overall reimbursement rates for products, and this really brings to light the idea of a lowered lake or lowered pond, right, exposing more rocks. The idea being that with less money available in reimbursements, that's going to expose some of those operational deficiencies or difficulties or inefficiencies that your operation might have. And so the idea is, as those dollars become more precious, right, within the industry, or more challenged within the industry, how can a company stay nimble and ahead of the curve with respect to assuring that their devices are getting to market quicker, and that the ongoing maintenance of keeping that device in the market is something done with less cost. And so we'll show you a little bit about that here later. The other thing about reduced risk is the fact that really companies with these advanced collaboration capabilities, advanced business processes, planning processes, delivery processes, and the systems that go along with them, that enable them, end up really growing twice as fast as peers who are relying on more manual systems or tribal knowledge, basically to keep their businesses going. And so really some key areas that we'll be showing a little bit more is really with enabled sales and operations planning. Sales and operations planning will show you kind of the facets and not just the foundational elements, but also those capstone or keystone elements that really make a planning process comprehensive and all-inclusive of the different functions within the business. Also, integration from product development all the way down through delivery and after delivery maintenance activities with those products. The idea is the full cycle from the ideation to the actual end user using those in the marketplace. What we'll show you is how the Oracle Cloud System and its comprehensive platform that includes all business functions can really serve as a single system through which everybody essentially can do their functions with and stay ahead of this rapidly changing curve. With increased technology, increased usage of medical monitoring and different ways to enhance folks' quality of life, there also includes the changing and ever-changing regulatory landscape, not just each country's, but the differences between each country's are growing over time. So while different regulations might be very similar, the idea, the keeping track of which countries are making what changes and when, and is your system evolving with those changes over time. And so really, with potentially key differences, I mean, you might have a device that's acceptable in France, but maybe have a material that is not acceptable or considered acceptable in Australia. And so keeping track of those different each country's own regulations and staying ahead of that really has required and will continue to require time and attention. However, what we'll also show you a little bit is how Oracle Cloud helps stay ahead even of that regulatory curve with the idea of sort of regular software updates that will be designed to accommodate changes in different regulatory differences, as well as what the implications are in the total supply chain, from development through delivery. Now we'll talk a little bit about quality and compliance, and here I'll throw out the figure of $36 billion. The annual cost of quality for the medical device industry, and that's no small total. So to stay ahead of strict adherence to the quality standards, the regulatory standards, really the ever-evolving and changing business processes, the monitoring of those constantly changing requirements, both with respect to the quality systems on the front end and manufacturing part, as well as the safeguards for confidentiality of all protected health information. So as the array of devices collecting this data increases, there's increasing need for the business systems collecting that data and keeping track of that data for the consumers is ever more important, and keeping on top of the security, right, of that information from outside people trying to access that is something that is always needed to stay on top of as well. So a little bit more details behind this really comes into the sort of a diagram around, and I'll call this the simplified diagram of the different facets and different considerations that is needed to translate and transform that regulatory information into different areas of business and business process management. And so here, all the way from a strategy around accommodating and or changing and evolving along with regulatory changes, moving through the idea of what clinical trials of the different devices are related to, and again, worldwide strategy around how each market region, whether it be a country or whether it be a group of countries, and how those trials can be can be done expeditiously, all the way through different distribution strategies to meet those not only get through the clinical trials, but then get through the country-specific regulations and make sure that the appropriate devices meeting appropriate requirements are making it to the right places, and then all the way through effectively kind of the any changes that might come after a product release, as well as kind of that tracking of the devices post-market. So what that means really is that you need a system really designed to help stay ahead of these changes. And so a business system that's designed around tracing through all these different steps, as well as evolving with that constantly evolving regulatory landscape. So with Oracle Cloud, one of the nice things versus some other systems is I think along with its comprehensive offering is also the concept of regular updates, so that really when you add a portion of your business onto Oracle Cloud or start from scratch on Oracle Cloud, it's really an implement once and then update constantly sort of situation. So those of you that are still working on premise or potentially with other cloud platforms, the idea of an upgrade or gaining new functionality or accommodating those new regulatory requirements could result in another multi-year upgrade project or another multi-year implementation project. And the idea behind Oracle Cloud is regular updates to keep you apprised of and also keep you moving appropriately along with that changing regulatory landscape. And so along with the quarterly updates or regular updates, so the idea is you implement once and then continuously update. Really stay synchronized to your global demand requires keeping track of, as you see on the bottom, synchronized design and development through planning and then all the way through manufacturing and delivery to the customer. And again, the idea is what you want is one, the idea of device and or system or combination, device combination, product manufacturing, and again with the idea behind streamlined, not only medical regulatory, but also the concept of the import-export compliance as well, keeping all those things in place and making sure that that the system is evolving along with those changing conditions or changing regulations. So with that, we'll capstone or stop talking about the difficulties and start talking about the solutions. We'll look light at the end of the tunnel for some of those difficulties.
Thank you, Ed. I'm Sachin Misra from Calypso, and partnered with Avada in terms of delivering solutions in the development and innovation space. I just wanted to briefly cover product lifecycle management, or PLM, for life sciences. One of the things that you've heard Ed mention is the regulatory aspects and the quality aspects of the device that you design and develop and bring to the market. So the FDA has some very clearly defined guidance and rules around what is expected from any medical device organization in terms of how they actually design, develop, and capture evidentiary proof of the decisions that were made, and also establishing the risk management mechanisms to ensure that all potential risks associated with that device or that product have been clearly identified and mitigation plans put in place. If you kind of look at this, if you look at this from right to left, the outcome for a finished product is really, you can kind of distill it into three work streams of information that need to come together in order for any device to be manufactured. One is the definition of the product itself, meaning its raw materials, intermediates, any components, assemblies, or sourced components that are going to be part of that product. the packaging as it's intended for multiple markets, because the packaging and the label instructions might be in different languages, may have different requirements from different market authorizations that they receive from different countries. And then, of course, the process of how you're going to actually manufacture that product. Those are kind of the three primary work streams to get a product in the market. But every regulatory agency, including the FDA, requires certain data to be captured to show evidentiary proof that there is a robust quality process in place to enable quality by design. So if you look at that, the graphic on the left, this is pretty much straight from the FDA, right? Meaning that these elements have to be captured as part of their quality management system approach. So PLM is a great application in terms of satisfying the requirements for not only the quality management system requirements, but also establishing the official product process and packaging design record that can then be leveraged as part of digital data sets that can drive downstream functions and activities such as demand forecasting, planning, supply planning, the ERP systems for production planning purposes, and even MES from a manufacturing execution perspective. So what does that really mean? So if you look at the gray dots kind of surrounding the red dot in the middle, the first and foremost, it's capturing the definition of the product. So that's the bill of materials, the items, any supporting documents in terms of SOPs and work instructions. And then moving kind of clockwise from there, you're really kind of building out two elements: the design history file, meaning the design inputs, the design requirements, the design outputs, which manifest themselves as a DMR, or you could also call it a set of bill of materials that very robustly define the DNA of that product. And then going further clockwise there, capturing all of the records and all of the design decisions or quality decisions that were made that got the product to the definition that's needed for bringing that product into the marketplace. And then the last couple of pieces are really around defining what facilities they'll be manufactured in, and what facility controls you'll put in place to ensure quality output, and then also defining the production and process controls. And then the last piece at the 12 o'clock position is also capturing the corrective and preventative actions that you took to mitigate some of those quality issues that may be identified during the development process. So when you think about the Oracle solutions to address that, so obviously PLM is what we call the design record or the design control system. But Oracle does also offer a commercialization layer, meaning that in a traditional environment, designs and tech transfer are kind of thrown over the wall into manufacturing, and manufacturing then has to basically interpret all of that data that's been provided to them by development to drive all of the downstream execution systems, not to mention all the planning organizations that also need that data to have a robust demand plan and a supply plan aligned to it. So what Oracle's done a really nice job of is leveraging the common data model across their cloud application footprint. The design control seamlessly moves over into the commercialization layer, which would be Product Hub. And what that allows an organization to do is leverage that single design record as it comes out of PLM, and then create the different views that are required to drive potentially production at multiple facilities. It also provides this ability to aggregate non-design controlled information with design controlled information. So what does that mean? That means that, imagine, if you will, engineering, design, development, creating this robust product record with items, bills of materials, approved manufacturer lists, and the change control around it. Well, there's going to be other pieces of information that comes from marketing or from sales or from distribution that don't necessarily belong in PLM. So PDH gives a nice layer to basically enrich that design record with commercialization data. Right? What target markets is it intended for? Are there marketing assets that could enrich that product record? So essentially serving the non-design organizations or the non-engineering organizations with view and edit access for that design record, basically enriching it with all of the other data centered around the items or the product. And then the last piece of that is, being able to propagate that, those views, if you will. So if I have a single design record that's now going to be manufactured in 5 different locations, you may make decisions or make and buy decisions or make or buy decisions. You might make geographically based procurement decisions or pricing decisions. All of these things are not captured in PLM, but PDH then provides the ability to capture that information and propagate it to ERP systems, planning systems, and so on. So the idea being that the inception of the product data begins in PLM, but then PDH gives the ability to share that data in a very controlled and secure fashion across the rest of the organization, including potential suppliers and partners that would be involved in that. This shows you an example of how we've done that for a client that had a EBS installed on premise and it was getting value out of the system, but they also wanted to take advantage of some of the newer cloud applications that provided deeper functionality and also expose some new functions that weren't available. So in their case, what we were able to do is put in a hybrid model where we basically augmented their EBS transactional systems with management of all of their design data in a PLM system, and then we were able to push that into PDH, which is where they would get it ready for getting it into EBS. So the PDH application was perfectly synchronized to the organizational structures defined in EBS. They were able to take that single design record, which included CAD data coming out of their CAD systems, and then get that staged into the various org structures in PDH on the cloud, capture relevant information from sales and marketing and regulatory, and then it basically adjusts the bill of material and the items as needed for manufacturing. Now, what that did was, EBS remained the on-premise system, but everything else that you see in the list there, from global trade management to procurement, HCM, all of that was on the cloud. And what that really did was, lowered their total cost of ownership and also put them in a position where they could, very quickly be able to take advantage of some of the new capabilities that were being introduced on the cloud. The other key takeaway from this particular implementation was that the PLM system was integrated to their trade management systems, and regulatory would come in to PLM based on the approval of their regulatory submissions under change control, would then add additional countries that where it was approved for sale. And that would then trigger the orderability rules in EBS in terms of making it available to a market, because in the past they were caught selling, or salespeople were selling markets or selling into markets that they weren't necessarily authorized for yet. So it not only gave them a quick time to market, but also made them more compliant in terms of being able to control which products are going into which markets. So with that, I'll give you a little bit of perspective on how the same data can then be leveraged from a smart connected operations or IoT perspective. So when you think about the production side of the equation, a lot of this change control data is leveraged by the downstream ERP and MES systems. And part of the work that we do is enabling our clients to be able to leverage that data. So imagine if you have created a process record in PLM that defines the critical quality attributes that must be achieved, and the manufacturing process parameters that they need to execute against. The Oracle IoT platform gives clients the abilities to monitor the performance of the processes in the physical world, right? And be able to take the performance data from those manufacturing systems, aggregate it with data coming out of PLM, and be able to provide advanced analytics in terms of, this is what my as designed intent was, this is how I'm performing against that from a manufacturing perspective, and can I, identify anomalies or quality issues that I need to address from a corrective action perspective. So, and that gives them real-time visibility into how those processes are performing. And that, from a Oracle perspective, not only can you manage or monitor a single asset, but you can monitor your entire production facility or line to be able to provide, prescriptive and predictive analytics on how they can get better performance or better mechanical availability from those assets. And then the other last piece there is around fleet monitoring, where you can actually track your products across the entire value chain. If you go to the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about the regulatory management function. So Ed talked about this a little bit earlier. And from a regulatory submissions perspective, one of the key challenges that the industry struggles with is that from a regulatory submission perspective, the data needs to be compiled from many, many sources, right? So it's not only the design data in terms of the design history file and the device master record, but also clinical trial data or quality event data where there are adverse events and what corrective actions did you take. It could potentially include process validation data coming out of your MES system, or documents in terms of SOPs and work instructions that you may want to include in your regulatory submission, and a whole let's say slew of other enterprise systems that need to produce data. And part of the challenge that the regulatory organizations have is that they have to then, comprehend all this stuff, orchestrate let's say the structuring of the data, because all the regulatory agencies require it in a specific format with specific chapters of information, or the submission gets rejected. So, part of the solution that we've developed on top of Oracle Cloud is the ability to ingest data from any number of internal systems, or perhaps even external systems that contribute to the regulatory submission. We're then able to look at that data and pick one of many templates, and each of these templates are aligned to a specific jurisdictional agency or a market where they require the data to be structured in a certain way. We then take the data that's managed in PLM and along with the other enriched data sets, and we restructure it to fit that regulatory requirement. So, you could think about, a bunch of content that you can then repurpose into multiple books of information, each with a different chapter, each having different types of content, and then be able to manage the relationships between the design record and the various regulatory submissions. So we have the ability to basically restructure the data into various formats, and then we also have the ability to work with submission gateways where you can track the status of those submissions. The point that I'm making here is that if you invest in PLM, you can definitely take advantage of additional capabilities that serve other functions within the organization, not just the design and development organizations, but the regulatory and quality and marketing functions within the organization as well. So with that, I will turn it back over to Ed to talk a little bit about some of the other key areas.
All right, thank you. What I'll show you is from the supply chain management point of view, Oracle's supply chain management cloud typically provides about a 35% reduction in total cost of ownership of the system, and really that really is a testament to the architecture that's being employed, the way that that the cloud solution is provided to the customers, the platform being in the cloud, the maintenance and the way the cloud platform has been set up with standards in place so that those regular updates are run smoothly, and also that as you are implementing that you're implementing in a way that is upgradable over time. Again, the key philosophy, right, is implement once, upgrade from many times. So the last implementation could be to an Oracle platform that you do. And the idea really is to provide an evolving platform over time. So instead of having to set an anchor at a certain point in time where you decide to implement and that's the version you're implementing, that really does change the game with the cloud platform to move forward. So what I want to do is cut into a little bit of the some of the features that are particularly good here for the medical device industry within the supply chain management area of the Oracle Cloud. First, I'll dig into a little bit of the Oracle Manufacturing Cloud, and I'm going to just barely scratch the surface within here. We could spend a good amount of time going through the particulars within the manufacturing platform, but the idea is that is communicate one. You've got a comprehensive platform with respect to supply chain management through the planning function, the idea of setting up the production or make area, and then optimizing the execution side, whether it's around the orchestration between manufacturing and planning, or a sort of adaptive, intelligent monitoring of the manufacturing process, and the capability really of quality management real time, meaning system metrics from the production line could potentially influence the later steps of production. So there's a capability within this cloud platform to have an Internet of Things mentality where extra high temperatures in the manufacturing, a certain area of manufacturing process could lead to an extra quality check within the manufacturing loop. This helps reduce waste so that you're not having to do a quality check on a finished good product that may have been caught earlier in, say, a sub-assembly process and therefore less costly, and something that could be then corrected for and adjusted almost on the fly. So the idea behind this is coming around a little bit of the regulatory changes, where maybe shifting from the CFR and GXP into the ISO standard. Really, anybody dealing with ISO, it's about repeatability, and then chapter 3 is repeatability of your existing processes. And this platform really does help with help the business keep those keep those processes repeatable, traceable, and fully documented through the different mechanisms. So you can track and trace really what changed, when it changed, and dig into various, if necessary, reporting on the compliance items. And it's a platform that's easily tailored to your needs, whether you have a process manufacturing business, a discrete manufacturing business, or a hybrid kind of combination of both. The system fully is accommodating in those areas. And so really it also handles functions such as readily handles outside processing functionality, both from a standpoint of planning for the extra supply chain time and tracing and documentation needed for outside processing operations. Full, and I mean full, cost planning and accounting capabilities. It's one area where Oracle has always excelled, and this the cloud platform is no different. Meaning, whether you are looking to report to the cost accounting group in finance, or whether you're looking to help track and manage the cost of manufacturing and look for changes or variance to expected or standard costs, system fully capable of those reporting activities and monitoring for that. Also, another big area that I talked a little bit, the lot and serial genealogy. And so really being able to trace back to make sure if something in the quality system does flag a certain lot of material, if a supplier wants you to flag a certain lot of material, a system like the Oracle Manufacturing Cloud can very quickly and efficiently spit out the report of where was that material used, and therefore which devices and which customers those devices went to. And so in a very efficient and quick and frankly almost simple manner, You can take a notice from a supplier and translate that into what does that mean to your products and to your customer, whether the product has left the plant or is still in the plant, and get on top of that particular potential quality issue, or double check as necessary. So along with manufacturing cloud, there's within supply chain management, there's the supply chain planning cloud area, and with this really brings together what amounts to a fully unified platform to keep the systems synchronized, and using the single data model, whichever stakeholders are involved with different facets of the process, you're looking at really the same plans or interconnected plans, so that all the stakeholders are marching to the same drummer, in a matter of speaking. And really what you have is really demand management, supply planning as your sort of foundational elements that then enable a fully mature and maturing sales and operations planning process with full collaborative capability for all facets of the supply chain, whether they're internal or external. Next one, we'll dig into a little bit demand management. The idea with demand management is that you have a few key features here. And with the Oracle's cloud demand management, first of all, when you're talking about forecasting, there's the concept, you have the statistical forecast and statistical models. And the forecasting statistics out of the Oracle platform really are industry best. There is no better mathematical forecast available on the market. And also, Oracle kind of coined the term of a PhD in a box, where we are really able to leverage very unique and frankly patented algorithms to have the system automatically select and or combine forecast models into the best one that's available. Also, taking into account and having a single platform for key stakeholders to come in and provide their information. So forecasting is about the process. It's about the statistical assessment of where products look like they're going based on past history, layered with supply chain, marketing, and potentially key customer inputs, so that you can truly generate a consensus demand forecast. Also, for the planners, some efficiency gains in tracking forecast accuracy, automatic accuracy tracking, as well as managed by exception capabilities, so that your planners, the supply chain planners, aren't necessarily looking for areas of big error. The system will point those out to them and bring them to the forefront, so you have efficient management of the forecast. Next, I'll dig into the sales operations planning aspect, and this is really for many groups an exciting area, and an area that's if it hasn't gotten a lot of attention here, it's an area that needs a lot of attention. And this is where really wherever you happen to be on the S&OP sales and operations planning journey, this is the tool for you. It's fully configurable to encapsulate a process that is on the beginning stage or crawl stage of S&OP, all the way through the Oliver White gold standard integrated business planning. So no matter where you are in that spectrum of sales operations planning maturity, this platform really does and can provide efficiency, and even potentially the catalyst for making step changes in your process. And again, being fully configurable as your process furthers along that journey, the platform can evolve along with you, and as far as the capabilities that you exercise. Then digging into the supply planning piece, really, supply planning is really about not just an MRP platform, but also incorporating and potentially incorporating real-time analytics. So real-time feedback via web services from your actual manufacturing floor, from your actual delivery systems. You can have supply planning run scenarios throughout the day with different supply pictures, so you can be nimble and not necessarily rely on just an overnight run to make quick decisions. And to dig into a little bit of detail around supply planning, really this comprehensive system really does have and provides a good platform around which you can model your complete supply chain, and based on that model, have the system automatically calculate changes, so that in a scenario, what I think yesterday I saw a news report that a ship was stuck in the Suez Canal of all places, causing days and days of delays in shipping through that route. Well, with a system like this, you can actually model, hey, what if that shipping route is delayed, increased by 4 or 5 days? The system can then figure out for you how to best reroute supply. Do you airship it for in the near term, or do you actually alter completely which supply area that you're going to be doing that? And you can model every facet of your extended supply chain. So really, what I hope we got across a little bit here is that the Oracle Cloud Platform is the comprehensive solution platform for solving all supply chain or business process challenges we've talked about, particularly with the medical device industry. And with that, I'll hand it over to dig into some of the customer examples.
Great, thank you. So just a quick little story around a successful hybrid PLM cloud implementation that we did, and this aligns, squarely to the example I gave earlier of implementing cloud solutions in conjunction with existing Oracle on-premise solutions. So this particular client, we call it, a small fish eating a big fish, in the sense that this client had been working with a supplier in terms of providing connectors to medical infusion pumps, kind of like what you see in the picture there. The owner of the parent company of the pump manufacturer decided it was not part of their core business, and put their business up for sale, that division of it. And our client thought it would be a good extension of their product portfolio. So they, did a leveraged buyout of that division. But part of that process was that they discovered that this company that was much bigger than them had more sophisticated systems in place, not necessarily aligned to the Oracle footprint, but from an organizational perspective, they were light years ahead of how they were managing their quality data, their product data, risk management data, regulatory data, and so on. So, we work with the client to help them, standardize on the Oracle platform, and essentially work with the company they were acquiring to help them understand how the Oracle platform would be better than their legacy solutions that they had. And at the end of the day, there was a technical services agreement that both parties had to sign, and there were severe penalties for the acquiring company, our client, if they weren't able to get this business unit transferred over to our client's system. So not only did they acquire a company, but they had to kind of manage the conversion of the company they acquired into a standardized footprint. So they embarked on an 18-month journey to implement Oracle Cloud in a hybrid environment. And essentially, we were able to get both companies, the acquirer and the acquiree, into a common Oracle solution. And we're able to harmonize about 10 different systems into one global system that gave them a fully integrated product record, all the way from authoring the data into integrating that into their transactional systems like EBS. So anytime a change would happen on PLM, it would automatically appear in EBS. And that was funneled through Oracle Product Hub Cloud, which orchestrated the propagation of that information. We were able to deliver that right on time, based on the Oracle footprint, because we didn't have to worry about installing anything. It was all delivered on the Oracle Cloud. And at the end, not only were we able to help them avoid the technical services agreement penalty, but we also ensured close to 90% satisfaction across both companies. So the results were basically they have a centralized repository of all product information, all the way from design through quality, regulatory, marketing, and sales, and essentially get the enterprise to have a system where they can have one view of the product.
All right. Thank you, Sachin. This is Sanjay here. Let's talk about the second use case, DeRoyal. DeRoyal is a manufacturer of healthcare products like knee braces, surgical equipment, sensors, monitors, among others. They have 21 manufacturing facilities around the globe, with thousands of SKUs being shipped out to different countries and different continents. And DeRoyal uses JDE as an ERP backbone. From a business standpoint, DeRoyal's key business objective was to improve demand planning processes and improve forecast accuracy. When we talk about demand planning, DeRoyal had implemented Demantra as their demand planning tool in 1999 for demand planning. So it was implemented about 20 years ago, but unfortunately the system was heavily customized. And there were several issues, including the fact that it was very manual with no formal S&OP process as well. So what we did is we implemented Cloud DM with them, for them, and then we implemented robust exception processes. So basically, after the implementation, the planners are able to spend more time doing value-added work, and they mostly focus on outliers and exceptions rather than going through all the different sets of customers, all the different sets of items. And also what we did was for speeding up the implementation process, we implemented an integration tool called eLink, which is our homegrown tool, which can seamlessly integrate between JDE and cloud. So after implementing Cloud DM, the planners, as I mentioned, are able to focus on value-added work rather than hunting for the data. Now the sales and marketing is able to participate in the forecasting process as well, and they are able to measure different metrics like MAPE, forecast accuracy, among others. And also what we are noticing is that the inventory levels are decreasing over time. So this not only helped their demand planning processes, but it helped the entire supply chain. The third use case is for ResMed. So ResMed is in the business of providing manufacturing products like for sleep apnea, COPD, and other chronic diseases. They were on-prem applications. So they had already Demantra as an application. They had ACP as well. So essentially, it was a transformation from on-prem to cloud. We implemented Cloud DM, GOP, and other tools connecting to EBS backbone. It is key to note that ResMed was one of the early adopters for implementing constrained supply planning. Some of the key takeaways, right? So the medical device, as Ed and Sachin mentioned earlier on, is rapidly changing. The marketplace is rapidly adapting to the new changes in technology and digital transformations. The regulations and the controls are also rapidly changing. So in these circumstances, Oracle Cloud has the capability to realign the new processes, realign to the new technologies. It has good BI capabilities to monitor and align with the changing business processes. So the users will actually be spending more time in doing value-added activities on the application rather than doing the data hunting. Last and most important, which Ed actually mentioned earlier on, is that Oracle Cloud Applications receives new updates every quarter, which means that you will get new features, you will get new functionalities, and do not really have to do a separate upgrade project. Where we can help, we at Avada can help you on your journey to cloud. We have accelerators, we have standard templates to accelerate the implementations. We do have standard robust methodology as well for doing these kind of implementations. We will work with you to align the business processes to align with the best business processes that are available in the application. And to carry out those implementations, we have strong resources who directly come from the industry with a number of years of experience. We at Avada realize that there are clients who may be looking for help to begin the cloud journey. A lot of customers, we have heard that they do not know where to begin. So we at Avada are here to help you with your roadmap to the cloud. Whether it is cloud ERP, cloud SCM, PLM, we can guide you to the journey. We can create a blueprint for you and guide you to the cloud applications. please reach out to the contact information provided at the bottom of the slide, and then we can certainly connect with you as well.
Great. Thanks, Sanjay. As we mentioned in the beginning, this webinar is the first in the industry series, so there are a few of the other topics that we're planning. You can find these and the other valuable webinars and resources on our website. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today, and a special thanks to our presenters. It was a pleasure hearing your thought leadership. Again, everyone will receive a link to today's presentation. If you have any questions regarding this or other information, like the free cloud consultation, or any other ways we may assist you, please contact us, email, phone, website. We'd love to hear from you. Stay safe and healthy, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the day wherever you are.